players that Youngbuck was talking about. For Bwipo up there, I want to see what Rekkles plays in the bottom lane, because the way we look at this, it's Misfits trying to win through Hansama and Mikyx, and it's of course Fnatic trying to win through Caps. Now, will that first pick on ban phase reflect it? Rakan ban against Mikyx is not a surprise. He's an amazing engaged support. On the Misfit side, we will probably get a Kali bans from them every single game against Caps specifically, and Sejuani is the #1 pick for Broxah.
Looking for that final ban for Misfits here, though. Maybe go towards something like the Braum, try and shut down that bottom lane from Fnatic. With Rekkles in, you know that Fnatic have the ability to go for a scaling AD carry, but it is going to be the Pyke ban instead against Hylissang.
Yeah, and we had some questions regarding Pyke specifically. It is, of course, a fantastic pick for Hylissang. But it is also a champ you could gank and actually shut down compared to a Braum Alistar that are harder to deal with in, you know, a situation where you want to hard camp that bot lane. But I think it's a respect ban against the best Pyke in the world.
Like this from Fnatic, though, they get a jungler that can gank.
There we go, there we go.
The Skarner comes out now. We see the Alistar Kalista combo coming out from Misfits in the bottom lane.
I'm kind of expecting something like an Ezreal or Braum. Pretty safe, pretty difficult to kill. You will lose the push, but
Tristana, baby.
Tristana is another option. It gives you a couple more defensive tools in your kit, and you have a little bit extra wave clear during the laning phase. We'll see how things pan out for Fnatic. Locking in an early jungler. Misfits haven't yet locked that in, but there's the Braum that we were talking about.
Yep, and I think Fnatic are not going to be too sad about the Pyke ban when they can just trade Braum for Alistar, because it gives them this support. They can actually play a bit more defensive in lane. Wonder if we get AD carry. In the past, Fnatic have actually saved AD carry pick for much later, and they never accepted AD carry bans. But if anyone has seen Rekkles in solo queue, he's very high ranked right now. There are so many Tristana games, and when you have a meta where Alistar is getting played, Tristana makes a lot of sense as a good choice. You can actually jump out of the combo if you play it properly. And it is Rekkles.
Yeah, I think we trust Rekkles to play that properly.
We kind of expected the Tristana to show up.
80% win rate he's sitting at in solo queue with that at the moment.
80?
Yeah, 80%. He's played around 30 games in the last
That's
couple of
rookie
games.
numbers. 90% is where it's at.
We can't all be your Zyra, but this is another big pick for Misfits. We saw how strong Alphari was on the Cho'Gath last week. He got 2 solo kills versus Sencux. Now they get it for him again early on in this draft
They
phase.
can look to ban away some of the counter picks too, but it does give Fnatic options to start limiting the jungle pool, because when we think about some of the strong junglers in Gragas, Trundle, Olaf already being taken off the board, you can then just deny those and force Misfits onto some of these potentially weaker jungle options.
Yeah, we have to remember we saw the Poppy from Maxlore after we had like 5 jungle bans and a jungle pick, and he actually did really well in that last game against G2 eSports. I like the Aurelia ban here. When I saw the Cho'Gath, it didn't scream to me that Misfits would start banning top laners, because that's most likely just tanks that we're going to get.
True.
But instead, you gotta limit what Caps can carry with in that mid lane. Yasuo is gonna be another choice for him. We have seen his Wukong. That was the champion that started the Misfits losing streak earlier on when they were 9-0. So you have to look at some of those key carry picks for Caps specifically, because Sencux most likely don't have a good answer.
And you can see Fnatic know that Sencux only has 1 or 2 answers in his arsenal. They're going to get rid of the Malzahar that he played twice against G2 last week.
Could signal a Rise pick, obviously for Caps. Not that it's been a huge champ for him in the summer split, but Malzahar was kind of the answer Misfits showed against the Rise.
And Rise is considered one of the best mid laners in the current meta, with Vel'Koz being banned away. Part of me says, ooh, could it be an Azir? But I'm not going to think that far ahead. I don't think Caps is the kind of player that wants to go that far into the late game. We do want to see him on these kind of playmakers.
Oh!
There's that. Ivern.
Holy!
Okay.
So let's think back to when Ivern was prevalent in the meta. One of the things that Ivern often struggles with is counter jungling, because he can get pretty low in the jungle. He doesn't have the best clear speed because he very much relies on his passive. And if you can get into his face, then it becomes very difficult. But with a non-pushing bot lane, it gives them a couple of options.
Is that the special top lane pick we were promised?
I guess they feel that Bwipo plays a stronger Ornn than Soaz does, or they have a little bit more faith in it, but it rounds the Fnatic comp out quite nicely because they have good engage, their siege is strong, their Baron is insanely quick. I feel like that this is a strong mid to late game comp from Fnatic.
What do we get mid lane here? Aurelion Sol is a champion I'm hoping to see in this series, but it's just going to be super simple at first. After banning the Vel'Koz and the Malzahar, they were like, we can just blind pick Cassiopeia. There's not going to be anything that Sencux can use to shut down Caps, and it is a hard carry champ for him. Very, very all-around composition. Strong frontline from Fnatic. 2 scaling carries with nice range, you know, good ability to just deal, sustain DPS is what I'm trying to look for here. While Misfits on the other side, Ivern pick coming in.
First Ivern we have seen in summer here in the EU LCS. Maxlore's actually only played 3 Iverns across the course of his career. This is his 4th.
And this should also be the first Ivern we have seen in a major region. Sorry, the second Ivern we have seen in a major region all summer long. It was played once in the LPL, and that's it.
Did it win, Deficio?
It did win.
Okay.
100% win rate.
100% win rate.
Misfits taking game 1.
But the thing is, again, for Misfits, it's very much about playing through their bot lane, whereas Fnatic, I don't feel like they need to snowball any lane. They scale quite nicely into the late game. They have pressure with the Cassio, but they need to mitigate this early game that Misfits is looking to try and utilize with their Kalista Alistar.
Very intriguing first draft phase here. I'm sure we'll see it develop as we get through this best of 5, but both teams bringing in pre-planned compositions. The Ivern may be a little bit of a surprise for Fnatic. They're going to put all their focus down towards the bottom lane.
The crowd is getting excited as they cheer for Fnatic. I wonder if those Misfits chants will come through.
Let's get some more insight on that draft as Rekkles is standing by with Misfits coach.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I am joined by the Moose himself. I gotta know about the Ivern, man. Tell me about the Ivern.
We saw some of their picks, and I thought it was just a good pick against what they have all the time, and it rounded out our comp well. So, you know, it's just the best jungler there.
All right, I haven't seen it in a long time, but good to hear you got the confidence. Back to you guys at the desk.
It's a good pick against what they have, and I want you guys.
That's how you draft.
I want you guys to tell me why is it a good pick against what Fnatic have.
So what Fnatic had shown when they locked in the Ivern was the Skarner, the Tristana, and the Braum. So there's a lot of pick potential, there's a lot of single target catch. Ivern, of course, is able to shield that single target and protect one person. And you know they're going to try and flash in for Sencux or Hansama, and Maxlore's job is then to keep everyone alive. It's going to be the supportive build, as we've seen so many times, you know, with things like Redemption most likely coming in, and just it's protection for a carry.
Now, Deficio, last week we talked a lot about how Fnatic have a lot of creative level 1 strategies. So far, they were just sitting in this bot brush. It looks like they don't want to try and go for any invade, and everyone is just going to reset and go back to base. So no early game shenanigans from either side.
And a very standard Fnatic draft, but again, some surprises from Misfits regarding Ivern, and also the Orianna. I just want to mention the fact that from the quarterfinals, we were looking at Sencux as the guy who would play roaming mid laners. That was going to be his job. Or something like a Malzahar, where his job was just to try not to lose lane too hard, and then you bring a suppression ulti for later so you can actually add a lot of value. But he's on a more traditional carry versus carry matchup with the Orianna. It's not a roaming pick, and it's not a super easy to execute champ either.
But I also think that it's great into the Cassio matchup. I think you can trade pretty well in terms of the early levels,
Definitely
just
true.
because that you outrange the Cassio. But also, you talked about how the Ivern is great for protecting single champions. The Orianna just further facilitates that with the bonus movement speed that you can provide with the W and the extra shielding that Orianna can give. I think it was a good pick that can work out nicely for Misfits.
I really like this from Maxlore. He didn't take his blue buff early, smites the Scuttle Crab to secure it for himself, and it means that Broxah has no chance of getting to that Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, you cannot contest that if Ivern has Smite available, with how quickly he can just destroy the Scuttler. Bot lane is of course going to be the focus on the side of Misfits with Kalista Alistar. They did the same thing against G2 in the very first game of the quarterfinal, and once you actually get enough levels, you can just start hard camping and tower dive Fnatic's bot lane.
A lot of focus here from Misfits to get insight onto what Broxah is planning on this Skarner. Remember that so far throughout the quarters and even semis, Skarner is one of those champions that can have a big early game impact if he wants to. And right now he's going for a bit of a skirmish against Maxlore.
Yeah, Maxlore's in a pretty good position here, though. It looks like Caps has the push in the mid lane as well, so if he needed to join his jungler, he could. Instead, Broxah will just back away for the moment. We focus so often on this mid lane matchup, Caps versus Sencux. The fact that Caps has been our all-pro mid laner for so long now, and Sencux has been a mid laner that has struggled to really make an impact.
And coming into this matchup, expectations were that Fnatic will look to continue to play around Caps. Now, he is on a big carry. He can still make those big plays, but in terms of the early game, Broxah doesn't need to snowball the Cassio because of how well he can play. But we might have to move away from that as we see a gank up in the top side.
Here comes Maxlore. Bwipo goes in with the charge, and now Alphari's in a very good spot. Shielded up. Bwipo trying to turn this one around, but Maxlore looking for the route. Alphari running away. The flash forward.
Oh, he's alive!
Survives for the moment. Maxlore's in the midst of all the minions. The bellows, Brad, and Bwipo gets the 2v1 in the top lane. Broxah's on his way as well. They might even look for the dive.
Oh, can he get in there and at least stop a recall and then maybe flash him for the kill? Remember the shield for Maxlore.
Broxah, they stop both the recalls. Bwipo coming in as well. Cassio on her way up. Cap's going to try and join this fight. Could be a very early dive here from Fnatic. Alphari jumps in. They're trying to turn it onto Bwipo. He gets one. And 6 goes across to Broxah as well. And now the dive is well and truly on. Cap's on his way. Broxah there to tank up the tower if needed. Maxlore trying to jump around through the bush. Does turn it around onto Broxah, but gets taken out by Caps. And it's 2 quick kills to Fnatic.
This is why Fnatic wanted Bwipo in the top lane. Perfect execution on the Ornn. Sencux now joins the fray.
Caps gets the movement speed from the Noxious Blast. She just turns it around onto Sencux. Alphari looking for the knockup will land, but Misfits cannot follow up on the top lane.
And that was such a close fight. In Misfits' mind, they can kill Bwipo in the 2v1 gank initially, especially after he decides to charge forward. I thought, okay, now he's going to struggle, but Ivern barely deals any damage, so it's just 2 tanks kind of in there. Maxlore didn't even get almost anything down on Bwipo.
It was also all those extra minions of Bwipo getting those clutch shields out at the last moment, and Broxah's only job here is prevent the backs, wait for our carry Caps to make it up towards the top lane so we can give him some early kills, and Bwipo does a good job, again, just buying time.
Also really want to highlight how Bwipo kept dancing just outside the tower range. He got rooted the first time just outside, and then the second time, same deal here, so he's not actually taking any extra damage. Rough start for Misfits. It was going to be all about getting the Kalista Alistar lane ahead once they get some levels, once they especially get level 6 on Kalista. Nothing needed to happen before that, but they tried top lane, and man, did it backfire.
Didn't work out for them, but if you do want to have a look at the bottom lane of the map, you can check out all the action on our POV stream, twitch.tv/Riot Games 2, where Hylissang is playing a mighty Braum in this lane into the Kalista and the Alistar. Incredible difficult matchup for him.
Normally we would see Hylissang roaming around the map a lot, but because he is playing Braum, he's probably going to be on the protect the Rekkles duty, make sure that he can get to those 2-3 items on the Tristana and just focus on enabling his AD carry.
Mechanically intensive recall right there.
Ward just disappeared top lane. Bwipo's level 6, however. Alphari's not.
Broxah's on his way. The silence comes out. There's the call of the Forge Guard, but the root caller does not connect. Now Alphari's not in the best of shapes. Bwipo's still alive. Broxah joins the fight, and Maxlore is not in a good spot at all. Somehow, Bwipo is surviving through it all. Eventually goes down to Maxlore, but it's 2-for-1 in favor of Fnatic.
4 kills for Fnatic around the top lane. Both times, it's Maxlore looking for the first gank with this Ivern here. He's not putting all his emphasis on just trying to put down vision and not actually be too proactive. He's going to this lane, he's looking for another play, but they don't have level 6 here on Alphari, so they don't actually have the early damage to take him down, and then he misses the first ability, and now you're stuck here with Broxah.
And you're just seeing the impact of this shield from the W of Ornn. It gives him so much more survivability, and what Bwipo does end up dropping, the fact that Fnatic now have 4 kills in the top side of the map, and this Tristana is doing extremely well in terms of the farm on the bot side. Fnatic feeling very comfortable with how this early game is going.
Incredibly good stuff for them. 1,000 gold up, 7 minutes in, and we can see why they brought in Bwipo for this Ornn pick. They said they had a top lane pick specifically for him, and they have used it incredibly well.
He's definitely been doing well.
Keep your eyes on Broxah. It feels like that he's reading the pathing of Maxlore extremely well. He's been there to counter gank every single time he's shown up, and now he's pathing towards the bot side. He feels like Drake could be a point of contention, and he's just making sure the vision is being invested around that side of the map.
And now they finally have level 6 on Alphari. So I feel like if you do want to play around top, you can do it now.
Yes.
Where you actually can get a bit more damage against Bwipo, because he's obviously just going to stack magic resistance against what's being, shown here from Misfits' side.
But look at the difference in items between the 2 top laners. Bwipo so close to his Abyssal Mask, whereas Alphari only sitting on a Mana Crystal and a Ruby Crystal. Definitely not the kind of performance that Alphari has compared to his G2 game.
And if you're on Misfits' side, you're probably wondering where it all went wrong in the early game. When we saw them in the first half of the split, they were so focused on getting their mid lane ahead, getting their bot lane ahead, getting that gold lead for the team at 15 minutes. You can see here, in their 9-0 run, they had 1,400 gold ahead on AD carry. They were 700 ahead in the mid lane as well. And then in quarterfinals, it kind of shifted a little bit. They played a slower early game, but they were still very focused on getting Hans Summer ahead.
Yeah. And the reason we don't show top lane here, obviously, both me and Vedius were so excited to jump in and talk about it, is because Alphari was actually just like 100 goal up, despite getting a bunch of solo kills. It didn't really change a whole lot in the matchup. But the fact that it's still bot lane focused and they early pick Kalista Alistar, just screams to us of like, why are you going top lane trying to make something happen? And then when it backfires, you hurt your entire strategy.
And I think what's really interesting about what you can see in the jungle proximity on the bottom is there's a lot of jungle attention around mid, and that wasn't just because Maxlore was ganking mid a lot, it was just that he was working very closely with Sencux to find these kind of leads, whereas in the quarterfinals, that was less of the focus and more of the priority was on snowballing bot side of the map with just the jungler and Hansama and Mikyx.
And they have level 6 now in the bottom lane for the Kalista Alistar, which means you can tower dive very, very easily. Not only can Alistar tank all the initial shots with his ulti, you can then also get him out of aggro with the Kalista ult. So there's so many ways to now play around this lane. Problem is, again, you have fallen behind so far as a team, and you don't have a roaming mid. So it's actually just Maxlore showing up at first, and then you might lack damage against what Fnatic is sitting with here with the Braum and the Tristana. And that's one of the reasons I was hoping to get a roaming mid laner. So you sent down multiple people. Right now it feels like the game will slow down a bit, and that only favors Fnatic.
Now Misfits are pinging bot.
Hylissang.
They're gonna try, but again, remember, they don't have a lot of damage here.
Not going to be able to do anything yet. They did secure the Infernal Drake down towards that bottom side, so that is sitting in their back pocket. Will scale up as the game does progress.
Hylissang is roaming up towards mid. This kind of leaves Rekkles on an island. He can't even go near the tower, but they're looking for something. They're looking for Sencux.
Seeing Broxah do these tower dives before. Flash, Predator engage. Hylissang here as well. Misses the best vision. Sencux survives. The shockwave brings it back, but a double petrifying gaze. Cap's not in the best of shapes at all. Misfits capitalize in the mid lane.
So close to getting a kill for Fnatic, but Misfits end up getting the turnaround. Barely any HP on the side of Sencux, and this is exactly the kind of play Misfits needed to get back into the game.
And man, we just talked about how Fnatic, they don't need to force anything. They can just keep scaling. They are not in a bad position, but they overforce in the mid lane. Sencux managed to stay alive while the bot lane is going down because Hylissang was mid. It was just a 2v1.
So, gotta recognize how quickly the TP comes in from Alphari the moment he recognizes it's happening. Caps, he uses the grounding to prevent the flash, but then that ulti from Hylissang misses, so he doesn't get knocked up. That forces Caps to flash in, but the shockwave still lands, which buys enough time for Alphari to get in, and the silence was crucial against the Cassio, because without her use of abilities, she wasn't gonna be able to secure that kill.
Such a big moment here for Misfits. They even the gold after falling behind in the top lane by now getting a kill for Sencux and getting that bot lane turret uncontested. Let's see if they can actually use Hansama and Mikyx to apply more pressure now that this lane is open.
Now what we would commonly see from Misfits is actually moving their bot lane to the top side of the map, securing a Rift Herald, and then after taking top tower, they look to take the outer tower and mid. And if they had a slightly stronger early game, this would have been the game plan, but they're actually keeping the 2 versus 2, and they've moved Hansama down towards the bot side of the map.
They have plenty of time. Normally when you do a full reset on bottom side, you can still go back to the lane, push it out once again, and then you can move. Rekkles, of course, is in a tough spot on Tristana. You are still an AD carry who's going to rely on building crit. You are more focused on scaling with this champion. And Kalista on one item is just going to do a lot more. So now Hansama and Mikyx, they have all the tools. Let's see what happens bot side though, because Bwipo is TPing in.
Slabor comes in behind them. Remember, Hansama has the Fate's Call to pull out Mikyx if needed. The Call of the Forge God is stop Mikyx now. The target of it all, there's the Fate's Call, just drags him out. And that's the safety that you get with a Kalista.
Now that was the teleport invested from Bwipo. Alphari couldn't match because he used his TP in mid, but Fnatic don't get anything off the back of it, only relieving a bit of pressure, allowing Rekkles to get that push out. Now they have priority over mid.
Oh, Caps is not in a good spot here. Mikyx could have flashed in, didn't go for the full engage. Caps backed himself away.
Meanwhile, top lane Alphari gets a bit of free time to push in a wave here. Fnatic really want to force plays in this game here, despite, again, their composition being great. If we go later, it's almost like they feel like they're on the clock, because they went mid lane with 3 people. Now they just TP'd bot lane against Kalista Alistar. Mikyx didn't even have to ult. They could have just pulled him out instantly with Hansama.
It could be that Fnatic, after getting a big lead up topside, want to try and utilize that lead, but you then think about where they've brought Bwipo, and they didn't bring him down mid to set up that dive. They haven't, aside from that TP bot, they haven't really been able to utilize the advantage that he generated for himself, and it has just been Fnatic trying to force a lot of plays that haven't turned into a lot so far in the first 15 minutes.
It's true, and we have to highlight with Fnatic, like the way they've been winning games during most of Summer Split has been through very fast early to mid games. Like they've forced a lot of plays around the mid lane. Once Caps gets ahead, he will then go wherever he wants to, and he will fight whoever is right in front of him. So they like to play fast. It wasn't super necessary here, and when we had a lot of Rekkles games in spring, they actually relied more on the late game. That style is still there for Fnatic. They don't have to completely abandon it and only focus on the early game.
Now keep your eyes on the mini-map because you can see the entire bottom side of Fnatic's jungle is lit up with Misfits wards. We have Maxlore moving in as well, and Rekkles is by himself. Hylissang now shows up.
Rekkles just buffers the jump, will get himself to safety. That tower down to about a third HP. Riptide goes down towards the top side. Glacial Fisher used. Hansama and Maxlore are just here. Should be able to secure this tower. Hylissang and Rekkles really can't do too much about this.
But I love what they're doing, because by staying bot lane as well, you know the enemy 2v2 can't stop you, and you can then also move to mid with Mikyx, and you're a massive threat against Caps if he's ever playing aggressive. So Misfits are keeping control on bottom side, which now gave them a tier 2, and of course Bwipo with the Rift Herald can get something top.
First tower does go down for Fnatic.
Oh,
He's going to flash in. There's the engage. Maxlore root caller doesn't connect because Hylissang flashes away. Daisy came down as well, but that Rift Herald is going to get a big chunk on towards the top tower as well.
Gotta highlight, was on a flash. We were a little bit quick there.
Hex
flashed it, so
yeah,
technically still correct.
Ooh, now Misfits roaming up mid. Mikyx is there. We do have the ulti from Hansama too.
They know that Bwipo's up towards that top position as well as he secures the Spire. Alphari coming down looking for the flank, but unless Daisy can run a little bit faster, he's not going to be able to catch Caps in a sprint.
We can also see Rekkles now again just sticking to the bot lane, picking up as much farm as he can. Misfits moving a lot around the map, haven't even based after securing that bot tower. I do believe Hansama's sitting on a lot of gold, but Bwipo, he knows it. He's crafting right in the middle of the river.
Can't craft in front of Alphari. He's going to get knocked up here. Not a huge amount of damage with only Maxlore, Alphari, and Sencux in the wings. There's Infernal Drake started as well. Call of the Forge God used, trying to catch onto Hansama. Redemption comes out. Hansama flashes. Misfits really want to fight around this. Here we go. There's the shockwave. Only lands onto Caps. Dragon goes down to Fnatic. Caps is done though. And Mikyx got a 3-man knock up in the back line as well. Here comes Hansama. Look at the Kalista. Just going to put spears in the back of the Forge God. And Bwipo tries to turn it around, but you can't do much in this sort of situation. He's done for. Misfits still chasing here. A root caller might allow Hansama to jump all the way in. There's the knockup. There's root caller Hansama trying to leap forward. 3 quick kills for Misfits in the river.
Misfits now take the lead in terms of kills as Fnatic lose 3 members. They secured the Infernal Drake, but Misfits are not done there. Let's jump into the replay.
So one thing we have to look at is how much damage can Caps deal from a distance. It's hard for him due to the amount of tanks and long-range CC that can land onto him. Alistar combos, Kalista ult, Sencux ulti from then Orianna. Like, there's a lot of things that can actually catch this Cassiopeia. That is now the long-range ult from Sencux specifically. And then he's stuck in place. Caps goes down. There's no damage on the side of Fnatic because Rekkles has no items at this point in the game, and they simply cannot win the fight after losing their mid laner.
And this is just Fnatic saying that they feel stronger at this point in the game and with their composition than already, but oh, they found a pick.
Maxlore gets caught out by Caps and Broxah. The flash ultimate used there by the Skarner.
This is everything we want from a game 1 between Fnatic and Misfits. We want to see Misfits be able to pull the trigger in the early game and find some openings to get kills. Bad start in the top lane, but then by punishing Fnatic for overextending, Misfits have found the way back in the game here. That last teamfight at the Dragon was huge in their favor. Fnatic, however, quickly get something back.
So we need to keep track of how the items are progressing because these are going to be big defining points for both teams. Oh, another fight kicks off.
Glacial Fisher used. Mikyx tries to turn it back around onto Hylissang though. He puts up the Unbreakable. The wall between Fnatic and Misfits. Shockwave only hits on one. Hansama needs to get out of this because that Braum passive's going to do a huge amount of work. There's one. Sencux flashes straight into the arms of the Rekkles. It's flashing forward. Rekkles comes back for playoffs. He gets 1. There's the second. Superb stuff from Fnatic.
Huge team fight for Fnatic. They baited Misfits in, and now they flip this game on its head once more. They've been forcing a lot of these fights, and Misfits have been the ones in with the advantage, but without Maxlore there, Fnatic finally find it.
I can't believe we've had 2 massive team fights already. We're not even at 20 minutes. First at the Drake and then here. A random fight started in the river. Once we get the replay, we can see exactly what happened, but Misfits, they felt confident. They knew, okay, we got some items on our Kalista, we can force another engage. Fnatic, they take it.
Let's have a look at that replay. This is brought to you by Acer Predator.
So let's see the whole setup again. It's after they've already lost Maxlore, and he's not alive.
Yeah, I think they kick things off with Hylissang, forcing the fight. And at this point, it's a 4 versus 4, but all of the focus from Misfits goes on to Hylissang. Note how Rekkles and Caps perfectly positioned to avoid all damage, and Hansama with no flash very quickly gets locked down.
I think the moment Misfits realized, oh, we can't actually get to the 2 carries in the back, they had to start running away. It was only hitting that Braum, as you highlighted, Vedius. I almost called you Rekkles there. That's a compliment. Take it. Rekkles, he was the man who got a lot of kills. And when he plays Tristana, even though this game wasn't really about him in the early game, he tends to win.
Yes, tends to do pretty well. 8-1 on that in spring of this year. It was like Tristana and Kennen were the two champions that you just can't let Rekkles ever get them, and this is exactly why.
Can't let Broxah get that Skarner.
1-0-3 now on Rekkles. Caps, he has kind of suffered a number of deaths so far this game, but that's okay. He's still outputting decent damage. He's now completed the Rylai's, and you kind of look at this comp and you're thinking, ooh, Fnatic, these big items that they're starting to complete, they should feel a little bit more confident now coming into these team fights.
I just want to see how Misfits want to execute the next few fights, because I feel like they have two options. They have a lot of ways of actually reaching Caps and Rekkles in the back with Alistar and the ulti from Sencux, so they can try and go for this comp where they want to burst the enemy carries and ignore the tanks. But because you have Kalista plus Ivern, there is also a world where you try and kite back and you try and outrange Caps effectively, and then once you have enough spears from Hansama, you can kill a tank in the front.
Are you going to be able to outrange a Tristana though? Because she only
The later we go,
as the game goes
that's
on.
kind of the problem. The later you go, and it feels like right now they have enough damage and CC to try and kill Caps every fight, so they could just go for the backline of Fnatic and use the Kalista ulti very aggressively and not actually to save Mikyx.
Fnatic now with a 3,000 gold lead. Flash engages the Call of the Forge God as well. Sencux pops the shockwave, but he's going to get popped himself. Rekkles takes down the mid laner for Misfits.
Very clean dive from Fnatic, and now you can see that with the momentum in their favor, Fnatic are not slowing down. These proactive plays are certainly turning out very favorable for them, and they're getting a lot of control over the top side of Misfits jungle to then set up for the Baron.
Rekkles jumping forward into an Alistar, and Mikyx just has to take the damage. No reply yet from Misfits. Have to see where they go next, because they've gone from being 1,000 gold ahead to now being 3,000 gold behind.
Yeah, and it's scary to see how quickly Fnatic then with Hylissang and Bwipo here can just force a play. Sencux felt safe in the mid lane, just wave clearing, and then he gets a long-range Ornn into a Q flash from Hylissang over the wall. Sometimes it's easy to be a carry on the side of Fnatic when you have great support around you, and we've seen that in this game.
Let's have another look at this, because as you say, basically Sencux is under his tower when this starts.
Yep, and it's just that Bwipo had pushed in bot. Alphari can't really even approach the wave. It allows Bwipo to roam towards the mid lane very quickly. Hylissang flash ultis to set up very nicely, but now Misfits, they're looking for a play of their own.
Still no flash on Caps if he's in the fight and they can actually get to him first. Rekkles can jump out on the Tristana. It's kind of what we're looking for here. Mikyx on his way to the mid lane, so it is 5 versus 5. No one's starting the fight yet.
Bwipo's ultimate is just about to come off cooldown as well, so they always have the opportunity to make a fight around that. With the Infernal Drake up, Misfits were trying to make a pick before going for the Dragon.
Yeah, we talked about how Misfits, if they want to try and kite back with Kalista, because of Ornn, it feels so hard. His ulti is such a long range. No one can really stop it from actually reaching the carries.
And you have a Skarner running at you with Right Explorer, you've got Rylai's Crystal Scepter finished on Caps. If Kalista gets pinged by anything,
right,
she's not going to be able to get out of the fight.
Yeah, if Misfits are not able to instantly try and kill one of the carries on Fnatic's side, it feels almost impossible for Hansama then to have impact in the team fights with the amount of people trying to target him. That's a nice knock-up.
Hansama coming up from the top lane as well, engaged with Mikyx, but Rekkles gets away. The shockwave does land, but the root collar misses, and here comes the turn from Fnatic. Misfits trying to find a single fight, but they are surviving for the moment. Bwipo goes in, Caps and Hylissang still on the backline. Rekkles there as well. Mikyx trying to do what he can. Bwipo's down. 1-0 exchange in favor of Misfits at the moment. Fate's call up for Hansama if they want to keep going, but they decide against it for the moment.
Very close fight between the two teams, but Bwipo makes a crucial mistake. Diving underneath the tower as the rest of Fnatic are disengaging means that Misfits find themselves another kill, but they're not able to regain any pressure off the back of that. There's a big wave pushing down towards the bot side of the map. Hansama will catch that wave up top, but Fnatic maintain control over the jungle.
I really like the team fights in this series already. It's only game 1, but we've had so many different ones. This was near the Misfits turret, obviously, and this time around, actually, while it was Misfits who started with Mikyx and that great, supposed to be a great combo, and it ended up missing, actually it looked like it was a bad fight. Bwipo over here didn't realize there was a turret.
Went a little bit too deep. But I want to come back to that.
Realize there was a turret?
Nah, I didn't realize.
I want to come back to that because after we watch this replay, we'll have a talk about how these teams are going to win the game.
Yeah, this is actually such a sick setup. If you hit it, it looks fantastic, but he missed it. And now I thought, okay, Sencux is going to die. This fight is lost for Misfits, but because he stays alive and then Bwipo jumps in under the turret, gets rooted by Maxlore, and he gets feasted. While Mikyx just buying time, Misfits still win the fight.
Rekkles will be able to take the tower down, though, as Misfits went towards the top lane to answer that push.
Fnatic still looking good, though. Hold a 3,500 gold lead in their favor. Good vision control around the Baron means that that's still a big win condition for them. And remember, in the draft, we talked about how fast their Baron-taking team is, with a Tristana currently at 2.5 items, the Cassio at 2.5 as well. This Fnatic will just melt through Baron if they decide to start it off.
Misfits on their side, if they manage to actually get to the Baron, we'll probably say we're even faster.
And they have the massive secure as well, because you put Kalista spears into it and you've got Cho'Gath Feast, so you can burst that down from a few thousand HP.
Right, you can steal a Baron against Fnatic. It should be impossible to steal a Baron against Misfits with their composition, but they obviously got to get there first. And it feels like in this kind of game, you must win a team fight. You can't, as Misfits, just easily get vision around it, because Fnatic with the Ornn can always force on you.
So let's have a look at how those team fights are going to go. You've got 2 items finished on Rekkles, Rapid Fire Cannon and the Storm Razor, Ginsu's Rageblade and Blade of the Ruin King, alongside a QSS for Hansama to try and keep himself safe from some of that engage from Fnatic. You also have to think about the fact that Maxlore has the Ardent Sensor and the Redemption just to help buff up Hansama in these fights.
And I feel like Hansama is going to be crucial because Alphari, he has struggles for this game. Bwipo!
Once again, out of position, but Fnatic are going to try and collapse. There's the teleport coming in from Alphari as well. Caps here, Broxah going forward, Hansama down to half HP, and now Mikyx not in the best of spots. Call of the Portugal, this is a perfect funnel for Fnatic. Only gets the 1 knockup, Redemption used as well. Caps on the flank, Bates calling from Mikyx. They're trying to take out the carry before they can. The Petrified Gaze comes out, and Caps is still alive in the midst of it all. The shockwave only hits onto Rekkles. Fnatic find the perfect fight in the Misfits jungle, and they rout through Misfits.
The moment Caps got knocked into the team with the stopwatch ready, it was a bait, it was a trap, it was not what Misfits wanted. They didn't have the damage to instantly kill him. We have to remember they've been forced to build defensive items. They have an Ivern jungle who can't deal any damage on his side, so getting Caps in the middle of their team was not what they wanted to do.
Misfits fall apart as Fnatic find themselves a clean ace and a Baron. This all starts off with Bwipo. He's just moving into the enemy jungle. He thinks he's fine, walks into 4 members, and at this point you think, oh no, he could be in danger, but he's the tank. He's the front line. Broxah then comes in with a crit from Rekkles. Hansama is now out of the fight. He can't get involved. The call of the Forge God straight into that funnel allows Caps to get this flank off, and Deficio,
It's a bait!
talking about knocking this guy into all your members just brings him closer to Hansama, allows Rekkles to flash in, or jump in rather. He can't dodge the shockwave, but it doesn't matter because Fnatic have already won the fight.
And this is why much earlier in the game we were talking about how Fnatic didn't need to force in the early game, because their late game team fight with the tanks and then 2 scaling carries is just superior. Misfits simply don't have the damage right now to actually beat these guys, because they gotta get through a massive front line and they then gotta kill Caps.
Here comes the Ram once again onto that backline. Mikyx trying to do what he can just to keep the rest of Misfits alive, but they can jump towards Alphari. Rekkles with a long-range crit. Bwipo with the knockup. Alphari not in a good spot at all. The Cho'Gath's done for, and maybe so are Misfits' hopes. Rekkles! Holy moly, that's a lot of damage! That's why you bring Rekkles back into the team. He's gonna go for these inhibitors, and Fnatic might be looking for the win.
Fnatic have their eyes set on game 1. Things looked a little crazy at the beginning of the game, but one big team fight swung the favor in Fnatic's favor, and they're gonna get the win.
Fnatic strike first. They're gonna team fight their way to victory and take a 1-0 lead over Misfits.
So, big surprise in the draft was the Ivern from Misfits. I give it a 0 out of 10. It did absolutely nothing. It went top lane, that backfired completely. It then couldn't actually protect its carries because it's just a single poor Ivern. And Misfits' draft was really built a lot around the Kalista Alistar as the big focus, and if they could snowball that lane, they could use them to just keep forcing plays, and then of course you could keep Kalista alive. But because all the focus early was top and that backfired, it felt like Hansama never got far enough ahead in the game to be that main carry.
Completely agree, and Alphari, he generated absolutely no pressure off on a side lane either. He fell really far behind Bwipo, and we kind of saw the differences in the front line when we got to those fights, because Bwipo was able to soak up a huge amount of damage. His use of the Ornn ultimates was tremendous, and it just felt like that those top lane pressures, there was a big difference in favor of Fnatic.
It definitely was. Great stuff from Fnatic. You saw so many team fights from them, maybe a little bit over-eager in the early mid-game. Didn't need to force as much as they did.
I mean, it got called out, and it should be called out, because they didn't have to overforce, and they gave Misfits a chance to get back in the game after everything kind of went wrong in the top lane. But the thing about this Fnatic lineup is they had such a strong scaling comp, and with Rekkles here, you have a crit AD carry. So you have Caps and Rekkles who can both carry in a late game fight, plus 3 supports around them. Perfect setup for scaling.
And don't even need to use their substitutes yet. The winner tonight will face off against Schalke in the final in Madrid, but there's even more League of Legends happening in Spain as Mad Lions and Vodafone Giants face off in the LVP finals tomorrow. Whoever wins will get a spot at the EU Masters in Katowice, Poland. It's going to be good. It's going to be good, and I'm going to be there. And for more on Fnatic's win, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Medic. Wow, what a game. A victory in the end for Fnatic, but there is so much to unpack in this very first game. So we're going to start right away with picks and bans. And first off, I want to give credit where credit is due. Ender said with the composition that they're running, with the players that they're running, they could look to go for Tristana Braum, and that exactly happened.
Yeah, they went for it very early on. Again, super safe bot lane. They were never trying to win the lane, but it's built for these mid to late game team fights where Fnatic were just so easily able to dominate.
The other thing that we have to talk about is the Ivern coming out in a first draft for Misfits. Cold, can you talk to me through the positives and negatives of pulling out this Ivern?
I mean, so first of all, historically, we have actually seen Maxlore play the Ivern before. I think he played it back at Worlds last year as well, so it's not a new pick for him specifically. The reason why we didn't see that much Ivern lately is because it literally doesn't do damage, you know? And that is probably one of the biggest flaws of the champion. You want to utilize your teammates to do the damage and then just shield them and provide some of the CC. But I think the champion is just honestly too weak. I think Deficio gave it a 0 out of 10. I will give it a 1 out of 10 in this case.
I'll give it 1.5 out of 10 if we're doing that. But really the idea was to protect Hansama because you have the Orianna shield, you have the Ivern shield, the redemption from him as well. It was all built around this player, but the way the game played out, they never actually gave him the support so he could step up for the team.
Exactly, and a lot centered around the top lane, and that's something we haven't talked too much about before the game. When it went to win conditions, it was about bot, it was enabling the carries on the side of Fnatic, but this is what happened, and Ivern, as you say, having a lack of damage really worked against them in these first ganks.
Yeah, this was so tough because Bwipo holds on for so long, and then right at the end, I actually think Maxlore can stay in this fight. The damage you actually get from the E proc is good enough to actually just 1 auto plus E to get the kill, but he flashes out and then gets stuck under the tower for Broxah to wrap around.
Definitely, and first of all, I just want to point out, this play is actually super risky because of the big wave that Bwipo has to play with, and then on top of this, they actually didn't have any information on Broxah when they made the play, so a lot of risk due to the lack of information, and then we saw them just completely collapse here.
Yeah, and then it also just leads into this idea where Maxlore revisits the top lane to try and get Alphari into a good position, but that means he's not ganking bot lane, and that's where he needed to be for this composition to succeed.
Exactly, so Fnatic was in the driver's seat for the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and I also just want to point out, like, we see a lot of discussion, you know, is Soa's going to play, is Bwipo going to play? One of the strengths of Bwipo specifically is that he is a very strong laner. And we see here that Broxah is actually playing around that he's a strong laner and enables him, and then they win the 2v2 top, which we haven't even talked about, you know? We haven't even talked about the fact that you can actually win the game over top lane in the early game. So I think good execution from Fnatic.
Exactly, I think that's a great point for Bwipo. I do need to then make the kind of note that both Caps and Bwipo for me in some of the team fights in the mid-game did not exactly play it perfectly, and I think that's what kept Misfits back in the game. And as we take a look at these replays, I also want to give credit to Misfits bouncing back. They capitalize on the mistakes that Fnatic makes very quickly.
Exactly, and it was so good because, again, they kept Sencux alive when Fnatic eventually went for this roam to try and punish him in the mid lane. Again, all you have to do is not die to this Caps, and they actually bait him for it. He flashes in, which is way too aggressive. The teleport and the roam there from Maxlore pull up big, and then in this fight, again, they have a target on Caps' back where you'll see Alphari actually come forward here to get the silence and make sure that Caps can't be a part of this fight.
So Misfits bounce back pretty well, I believe, in the mid-game. They also get a couple of kills on the people they need kills on, and they know that they can win in this phase of the game because when you look at the draft from Fnatic, they are on a timer, the side of Misfits.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I really didn't like them going for 2 early Quicksilver Sashes. That's a lot of gold on your 2 damage dealers, your only 2 damage dealers, which gave up the sort of of large window where they could have actually won these fights. They didn't quite have the damage to go up against Fnatic.
And even though there was a lot of skirmishing in the early mid game, it was not that Misfits is winning the fights, when in reality they actually need to be able to win these fights to get an early lead, to utilize their composition if they want to win the game around the 20-25 minutes mark, when they need to force Baron. And they didn't get any lead. The fights were very even. Fnatic was completely fine with just trading evenly, and they have the better scaling on their part. So I don't think Fnatic is too happy with taking these trades in the early game.
We talked about the keys to victory of Fnatic. It was enabling the superstar carries you have in Caps and in Rekkles, and from that point on, it really seemed to be going in that direction. The next fight we're going to take a look at is a big team fight in the mid lane, where Rekkles finally knows that he's strong, he has his items, and he can just jump.
I really think Tristana is going to be banned in every single game from now on, because he is just so dominant on this champion. Watching him jump forward in these fights to get the resets and go for the kills is so impressive. And you also see in this play as well, Cap sort of coming in around on the flank to set up for this massive multi-kill on Rekkles.
Definitely. And Rekkles is one of the guys on Tristana that likes to jump forward, and we really saw that in this game. You know,
he likes so many times.
He jumps in. He's not afraid. He pulls out the damage, and he knows exactly the limits of the champion. I think that is really what describes him on Tristana.
And we also have to say we had a lot of hype around Rekkles Hansama matchup, and a bit of a question mark of, you know, is he gonna step on stage, is he going to be as confident as before? When you get to play your Tristana in your first game and your win conditions run exactly as you had prepared them with your composition, Fnatic and Rekkles are going to take a big confidence boost from this.
That being said, though, Hansama did build a pretty sizable advantage in that bottom lane. Not early on, Rekkles stayed pretty even, but they were able to take the first turret down there, actually get a second turret, and build up a CS advantage. Just once it sort of, the game devolved into a bunch of these mid lane skirmishes, that's where Rekkles was able to pick up the kills and ultimately win the fight.
That is true. Now we have to tally up the side for Misfits. They came into this, they know they had a great quarterfinal up versus G2, where they played the route through the bottom lane, and they weren't really able to do this here. What do you want to see changed going into Game 2 cold?
Honestly, not too much. I think the biggest mistake in the game specifically was that they committed for 2v2 topside, when in reality they should look to abuse the fact that they have the stronger bot lane, and that was what they showed in the quarterfinal. They drafted exactly the same, played around it, but in this case they didn't do it. So you either take this approach and you play more towards the bottom lane, or you try to match the scaling. I'm sure Hansama can play the Kai'Sa, this kind of stuff. But
do you want to see Ivern
either
again this series?
I don't want to see Ivern again.
Please
I
no.
think you
Please.
can try it once. After that, it's over. I want something that can fight earlier on into the game and really go for 3v3s around the bottom lane. That's where Misfits will find their success.
All right, we want to put some agency in Maxlore, who also had a wonderful performance against G2 Esports. We will see what happens. The reigning champions of Fnatic, they are on their way towards the summer final in Madrid. We'll see if they can take us to match point right after this.
Up in the back line as well. Here comes Hansama. Look at the Kalista, just going to put spears in the back of the Forge God, and Bwipo tries to turn it around, but you can't do much in this sort of situation. Passive's going to do a huge amount of work. There's one. Sencux flashes straight into the arms of the Rekkles. It's flashing forward. Rekkles comes back for playoffs. He gets one. There's the second. Flank face calling from Mikyx. They're trying to take out the carry before they can. The Petrifying Gaze comes out, and Caps is still alive in the midst of it all. The shockwave only hits onto Rekkles. Fnatic find the perfect fight in the Misfits jungle with the knockup. Alphari not in a good spot at all. The Cho'Gath's done for, and maybe so are Misfits hopes. Rekkles, holy moly, that's a lot of damage! Fnatic strike first. They're going to team fight their way to victory and take a 1-0 lead over Misfits.